Welcome back. We are ACI Course 12, Last 6. It's April 10th, 2026, where I am. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiating from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing us in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about emptiness and karma, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that strong intention, we turn our minds back to our precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet. To become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please, please help me, teach me, show me. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the pure world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Tayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. All right, last class, we learned about those 2 tendencies, 2 forms of the tendency to grasp to things as existing in truth, as existing really, as being real. Like, it's so hard to find the right words to convey what Buddha was trying to teach. One form of that tendency to grasp to things as existing in truth was the learned form, meaning somebody teaches us something about anything, but especially about how our world works, where things come from, what makes me me, and influences our mind in that way. And so we come to believe that that's true and that things do work that way. And then there's the innate form, because we've believed and acted towards things and self as existing in truth. We imprinted in our mind the belief that that was all correct, true. And those seeds make up our being and are ripening that belief continually, which is technically why when we hear somebody say, oh, first there was nothing and then there was a big bang, and out of the big bang sent forth everything, and at the outspread of the big bang is you and your life. And we go, okay, makes sense, doesn't make sense. But even in checking out whether it makes sense or not, we're thinking that it's real, right? That what they're describing to us is real. And science would say, of course, it's real because it's still happening. The universe is still expanding, except now they're showing that, well, maybe it's not so much. Maybe it's actually going the other way and we're just misperceiving it. It's like, oh, maybe, maybe my mind change is really starting to happen. But anyway, so the innate form of belief in things as real we're born with, nobody has to teach us that. And because of that, everything we do learn about stuff, we hold to be in it from it, right? We know the punchline, but we need to hear it thousands of times in order to impact our mind enough to get it deeply enough to be willing to change our behavior enough to bring about a change in the world that we want, which is pretty dramatic. So then we learned that on the Mahayana track, a person eliminates the learned belief at their path of seeing. When we go into and come out of our first direct experience of ultimate reality, we have lost the belief that things exist in truth because we just directly experience the fact that that's not true. Like we finally got on the bicycle and rode it. So now we know what it's like. Whereas before, we just thought we knew. So direct perception of emptiness wipes out our belief in all those ways that we've been taught, explain things, how things work, where they come from, what their qualities are, what their identities are, all of it. The belief is gone. But the innate seeds to actually experience things as existing in truth, meaning in them from them, we still have those seeds. Those have not been wiped out. Or maybe we could say not enough of them have been wiped out. And it takes on Mahayana track the effort that we make to change our behavior until we reach eighth Bodhisattva Bhumi, before we've damaged those innate seeds enough that they no longer ripen into an experience of me in me and you in you, and what's happening between us, having all those having their own reality. We no longer see it that way anymore, no longer experience it that way. Hinayana track would call that nirvana. It is nirvana. But Mahayana track calls it eighth Bodhisattva Bhumi. We're not yet ripening omniscience. There's more to do. So on your quiz, it said no Buddhist school thinks that there's a person who exists independent of all their parts. But Middle Way goes on to say that, of course, we're not any single one of our parts, but we are also not the whole of our parts. And that stretches us a little bit because we do think we're the whole of our parts. Okay, if you take your pen apart and you put all the parts on the table, do you have all the parts of the pen? Yes. But do you have a pen there? No. And we say, what? You have to put all those parts of the pen together. So suppose you put all the parts of the pen back together. Now do we have a pen there? Right? We would say yes. Now there's a pen there. Highest school says no. All the parts of the pen don't make the pen without the mind of the experiencer calling that a pen. Is that a part of the pen? The mind that's calling the pen, is that a missing part of the pen? No. The things on the table our mind puts on its label. Same with what we call person, other person. Same with what we call our own person. All the parts may be there, but without something else coming from an experiencer, all of those parts don't make me until there's the laying on the label me. Now, who's doing that all the time? Me. But if there could be a moment that my me is not laying on the label me, there would be no me. And that's impossible, of course. So it's tricky because our mind wants to say, no, no. Once you have all the parts of the pen is there. And not everybody sees it the same way. And dogs and flies don't even see pen, but come on, the pen is there. Like if your mind's like my mind, we can't help but do it. And then we have to like work it out. Wait, no, it's my mind that's making the pen. So we're laying the whole onto the sum of the parts. And we're doing the same thing with this thing we call our me. So then your quiz asks, so what's the real nature of our me? My me is nothing but an image or concept imposed upon a collection of parts, forced by karma to perceive that image. Forced by karma means ripening results of images I put in when I perceived that self, that misunderstood self, interacting with misunderstood other. And so those seeds that were planted are also seeds of misunderstanding. And that's why every seed ripening is ripening with that misunderstanding. So remember, we also worked a little bit with our friend the Pat. Look, I have a different one. And we went through that exercise before. It's like, what is this thing? It's a pen. You just look at it unexamined. Sarani's holding a pen. But pretend you're a tiny baby, month-old baby. And you hold this up in front of baby. Imagine what baby's experience is. Right? It's like baby's gonna test. Is it edible? Is it milk? No, right? Is it the breast? Really, a tiny baby that's breastfeeding, that's like all they know. Not breast. They don't even call it that though. So, right, get it? We try to pin down what it is we think they're doing and we can't, which is proof that this thing's identity depends upon the experiencer of it, actually the experiencing of it. So again, just that simple example, we can conceive of experiencing this object and not knowing what it is. And then I want to say not knowing what it is yet. But do you see that's wrong view? Not knowing what it is. And then being aware, oh, I am the one that makes it what it is. Then, of course, if I get from that a thumbs up, it's a result of something kind that I did before. If as soon as I make it into a thing, I get a thumbs down from it, I think I get a thumbs down from it, then it's a ripening result of some unkindness I did, some selfishness. And then, right, it goes from there. So the fact that we can even imagine experiencing this thing as not pen, orange pen, that alone shows us that something about this object, its identity, its quality, its function, is depending upon the experiencer of it. But even that's said wrong, because the pen isn't depending on anything. My experience is depending on my experience making it the pen. Just because I make it the pen doesn't all of a sudden make the pen exist truly. But my mind says, yes, it does, because I can write with it. If my experience didn't make this pen now a pen, I would pick it up and I couldn't pick it up, or I couldn't write with it. Hey, do you see, my own mind believes, even as I'm saying it's coming from my mind, that what's coming from my mind is this thing that exists truly. Because something that's only a projection, come on. I can't touch a projection. It's just an idea, right? It's not truly existing. And that's mistaken. What we're trying to get to is when we hear the words, oh, things are nothing but projection. We get this light bulb about how things are real and how they work. It's like for those words to trigger this wisdom. And I don't know about you, but I'm still far from that. I have to walk my mind through it every single time. No, this pen's a projection. It doesn't really, it's not real. It's not solid. It's all made up in my mind. No. That is what makes it a solid pen, because its solidness is part of my projection. Its writingness is part of my projection. So the better we can understand this process of how we are how we are experiencing things mistakenly, we can better understand how we are actually experiencing those things, so that we can imagine doing it the way we're actually doing it but can't see that way. Then as we do that, we chip away at our belief in the old way we experience things. And as a result, if we're understanding well enough, we will be choosing more ethical behaviors, not because we've been told to do so, but because it becomes so obvious. Like even in the moment as we're doing something that if somebody else were to do that to me, I wouldn't like it in the slightest way. That my awareness would be, well, then I'm not going to do that to them. As much as my old me thinks it's the right thing to do, So our conclusion, we hope, is always going to go all the way to, oh, it's my behavior, through my behavior towards others. So I'm going to try and get us there. So highest middle way says, no thing has any nature of its own. No thing exists truly. Not physical things, not mental things, not changing things that are neither one, mental or physical. No existing thing can exist with its identity and qualities coming from it. And of course, it's not that nothing exists at all. How do we know that? Because we know our me exists. Like the one thing we do know is I am, right? You don't know that I am, but I know that I am. You know that you get it? That's about the one thing we really know, for sure. Everything else we think we know. It's not that we don't know it, it's that we mistake what we know. So I tried to draw out this idea of when we experience something, when we experience our friend the pen, all that's really happening at the moment is, as a visual object, the eye is picking up color and shape because that's all the eye can do. The eye consciousness, the part of our awareness that is specific to color and shape, takes that information and it puts on the label, the whole, the idea of the thing. Geshe calls it the archetype. And then that idea of the thing, we would say, flies out and lays over the parts. And once that layover is there, the one from whom that layover came is forced to perceive this object as pen, orange pen, Sarani's pen, orange pen in it from it. We can add that at the level of understanding that we all know. It's not just pen, it's self-existent pen. Pen that exists truly. It's in the seed ripening. So, like, how do we really describe that? Geshe Michael's image is you've got vanilla ice cream there. You pour chocolate sauce over the top. It drips down over the vanilla ice cream, and now you have a chocolate sundae. To get this idea of something covering something else that then changes the identity or creates the identity. If your chocolate's there and your vanilla's there, but it's not poured over, you don't have a chocolate sundae. You just have vanilla ice cream and chocolate sauce. So, I tried to draw it out, and then I had all these different drawings, and I look at it and go, no, that can't be right. And then I did another one. No, that can't be right. I'll just show you one that I landed on, but it's not right. It's just my attempt. So I encourage you, if you're inclined, to try to draw it out, right? So here's my guy. The guy standing at the pot, me standing at the stove, boiling water, right? We've heard this story. You suddenly realize, oh my gosh, all I'm experiencing is my mind's idea, my mind's overlay of pot on stove onto just color shape. So here's me, here's the stove, here's what my eyes really seeing. A shape, I couldn't write color. But what I'm experiencing is this whole pot, right? All there are is the face that I see. My eyeball can only see that part and that part. But out of that, somehow, my mind makes this pot on stove, boiling water for Lama. Right? And the story goes on, it keeps building about what this thing is. But now what's the actual reality of this idea, this concept? It really is just like this thing, in a mind bubble. And yet, which one of these is what boils water? That one. Wait a minute. How can that even hold water when it's just an idea bubble? Well, what about the water? The water's just part of the idea bubble. What would the water be like? Like, I can't draw just parts of water, visual parts of water. I don't know how to draw that. But the point is, if this is all that's, I want to say actually appearing, is it enough information to come up with that? No. Like, you could make all kinds of different things out of just that. And other beings' minds do that. Right? The ant on the stove. maybe bumps into colors and shapes also, but it's not a pot for them. And yet I'm so arrogant when I see the ant on the stove walking towards the pot. Don't go there. You're gonna get burnt by the hot pot. Is it true? Yeah, it's true. But for the ant, there was one time, I don't remember where I was, but I was laying in bed looking at the ceiling. There was a skylight, and the skylight like was inset into the ceiling by about this much. So it was like there was there was the ceiling and then the walls of the little skylight and then the skylight. And there were these ants and they were walking along the ceiling. And then they turn and they go up the side of the wall. And then they turn and they walk on the skylight. And I was staring at them because it was like, wait, you guys are walking upside down. And then you're walking vertical. And then you're walking upside down again. And I thought, no, for the ants, they're not walking upside down. They're walking on the surface. And they're just walking along, right? Following the surface. So, like, I don't know, I was just like, wow, look at that. Up, down. It depends on who's doing it, doesn't it? Like, ants have no gravity. It was a real big aha for me. So, what's happening? What is this stuff? Is this stuff truly existing? Doesn't our mind think that in order for this scenario to be happening, that had to be there first? And then this came along and took in that information. And then bing comes this, which I have another drawing where this is inside there. But then it's like, no, that's not right. Because if that was true, right? It doesn't work. It has to be out here somewhere. So we think that that's there first, and then we take it in, and then we come up with this, and then we mistake this for that. And that's what we want to explore. Because if it's true that this is there first, then it would mean that there has to be something in this that exists truly, is there before I'm perceiving it in order for me to perceive it like that. That doesn't feel wrong at all, does it? Of course, the parts have to be there before I perceive it. But that's where we go next. The parts can't be there first. But there has to be something for our seed ripening mental image to land on. If you have chocolate sauce and no ice cream, you can't pour chocolate sauce on nothing and have a chocolate sundae. You have to have the ice cream. So the question is, where does the ice cream come from? Where do the parts come from? We call it the raw data. So let me find my screen share. Dakshi. Geshe translates it as raw data, but the word literally means the basis of the dak, the basis of the thing that's there, the basis of the self, but not meaning just me self, but the pen, everything. Dakshi, the basis, raw data. According to highest middle way, the sum of all the data does not make the object. According to lower schools, there's something about the sum of all the data that influences the one who's experiencing it to experience it in the way that they do. And the extent to which we still insist there's something in the data that suggests Pan is the level of Buddhist school that they say we are in, right? And it's not like we reach one school and then we graduate from that. It's like at any given moment, the extent to which we blame the other for being what it is and how I feel about it is the extent to which we are not in highest middle way. So we're doing this swing between all of the schools, often all day long, if we're even trying, if we're even in a Buddhist school. So Dakshi, the basis. The basis is the thing that receives the concept, the idea, the bubble picture, going down over the colors and shapes or tactile sensations or whatever the information is that's making up the basis. So what makes us think of the raw data in a certain way? What makes humans take this raw data and make pen out of it, and dogs take this raw data and make chew toy out of it? What in the object is making that happen? Right? That would take us through the different schools. Highest school says nothing from the object makes the mind experiencing the object experience it the way it does, but something makes that mind experience the object the way it does. When we experience an object, we're experiencing a result. Can we say that? Every moment of experience, right? It's something that's happening. It had to have a cause. So the result is this overlay concept pen. It's an idea from my own mind that has to have a cause. What do we know about causes? They have to be similar. They have to have been created before. Technically, they are reactions to results is what makes causes. So, those of us who were studying Arya Nagarjuna, it's like, well, wait then. Isn't the result the cause? because, never mind. So if it's true that there's nothing about this object that insists or hints or suggests pen, then it means any given mind could experience this information differently. And that's revealing the emptiness of the pen, the no self nature of the pen. The fact that different minds can perceive it in different ways, not just can, not meaning, oh, so I can choose to perceive this as a magic wand and make everybody enlightened. It's not, our concepts aren't about choosing them. It's revealing the potentiality of this object. Its potential to be anything for anybody. So we know what makes us perceive it in the way that we do is these ripening results of some cause that we made. If the ripening result is a concept placed onto information, the cause that made that ripening result had to be similar. So when we perceive ourselves thinking, saying, doing towards other, right, we know this, it imprints our mind in such a way that when that seed ripens, it ripens as something similar coming to or at us. The cause and effect factor is our actions and reactions towards what we perceive as other. So if everything is nothing but a concept, a projection, then there's nothing that we can't change by way of changing the seed that we're planting in our mind. If there's anything that exists in it from it, independent of our concept, then that would be a thing that we cannot change. Fortunately, there's no such thing, because, yeah, let's just stop there. Fortunately, there's no such thing. If you are like me, we currently are, all of our concepts are mistaken in such a way that they are contributing to those 4 factors of forced rebirth, aging, illness, and death in some combination. None of those exist truly either, which doesn't mean they don't happen. It means that when we create our mental seeds differently, we no longer ripen those results. We will ripen the results of pure world, pure beings, no aging, no death. Nothing but abundance and safety and beauty. And it's only possible because nothing has its own nature. And it's not possible until we're living according to nothing having its own nature. Because when we're at that stage, we really are incapable of doing anything. I want to say harmful, but that's too gross a word, too big a word. Doing anything ignorantly. Okay. So when we say pen, right? This is colors and shapes that we put on pen. we don't mean that the word pen makes this thing be here. We don't mean that the sounds of those letters are what make the thing the thing. And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, that is the concept pen. But it's not this, it's not the sounds, it's not the letters, right? Because if it was, then we would all call this thing pen. But you know, Chris and I are the only English speakers here, right? Amazingly, you all speak English, but this is something different to your native mind, right? It has a different word. And so we're all thinking, yeah, you talk about a pen, but really it's all, right? Put your word on it. And as soon as you put your word on it, it becomes more real for you than when you hear the word pen, except for Chris and I. You know, assuming, Chris, I guess I'm assuming that you grew up speaking English. I guess I don't really know that. But anyway. So the word that we use for any object, that's called the Ming. The name. But they use the term imputed. They use the term nominally. This pen exists nominally. This pen exists as imputed. It's an imputed pen, like weird, awkward English words. They're all trying to convey this idea of Ming, how our concept gets defined, delineated by language, by a word. Does that mean until the little kid has the word pen, this thing is not a pen for them? It's tricky. It's like, no and yes. Because they have to have the mind's seed ripening for, I don't know, writing, something writing. But it doesn't have to be the word pen, to be the concept pen. So we have Ming is just the words. And then we have Tanye. Tanye means the whole mental picture that's imposed onto the raw data. So Ming and Tanye can also be used interchangeably, but they're really referring to these subtle aspects of our experience of our object. Within this nominally existing object, we have its name and we have everything that we think we know about the object. Ming Tanye, often called Ming De. We could say name and term, or name and function, or identity and function. So the instant our mind imposes pen on this thing, we have thing that writes, I like it, I don't like it, it's mine, it's not mine, right? The story just builds. And it's all included in that simple word pen, because it was all included in the seed planted that has grown into pen, orange pen, Sarani's orange pen. So Ming Tanye, is how they convey this idea of when our mind comes up with the whole concept. That's what we actually experience, is the whole concept, not the little parts. Because the parts alone, even if they're all together like this, are not the pen and can't write until I know that that's what I do with this thing. And then it becomes pen that writes. So we can have the parts that receive the concept. Then we also have to have the dokje. Dokje means the state of mind that's thinking of the raw data in the way that it does. So dokje means mind imposer, meaning that which comes up with the concept and puts it on the information. So we have the name and the term, and we have the imposing that name and term. And then we have what's called the takchu. Takchu means the product result. So the product result is our friend the pen. Wait, I started out talking about the pen. I started with the product result to show us how the product result gets made. There can't be a product result there first. But there has to be something that my concept makes into the product result. And our mind goes, well, so there have to be parts out there first, right? And we should go there, Geshe-la says. He says, you don't take your students to what about the parts when they first learn about the pen. You take them to learn the same thing about the pen to the yelling boss. And then about the me. But you don't actually go to, well, what about the parts until we've heard the punchline enough times. So that as we touch into this conclusion that, well, there can't be anything there first, we don't flip out. So like, who cares if there's no pen there first? But who cares is if there's no me there first, when we go looking for the me. Right? And that's scary, to believe that reaching the emptiness of me means that there'll be a moment or more of time when there's no me at all. We can't go there. We'll hit a block and it'll pop us out. It's fear of annihilation. So we do all this steady cognitive, brouhaha, to prove to ourselves that it's impossible for there to be a moment in time where my me doesn't exist. But we also need to understand that when we come to that conclusion, there is no moment of me that has ever existed truly. Wow. Right? That's why it's so hard. If we conclude there's no such thing as a non-existent me, we automatically conclude, oh, so there is a me for real. And it's like, no. So slowly, we tiptoe into this. And that's why it doesn't come up until now, course 12, so that hopefully I don't break vows by teaching you this. So if for this pen to be here, there has to be the concept that pops up in the mind And that mind imposes that concept on, that imposes that concept. And then there's pen. Where is the pen? Is it here? Or is it here? Or is it somewhere else? Like, it can't be somewhere else. It either has to be here, meaning in my mind, or here, meaning in the pen. Neither of those are accurate. Is it in the data? No. Is it in my mind? Not if my mind is limited to my head, because if so, I'd have to reach inside there and do my writing inside there. And maybe that's really what's going on. But then my head would have to get really, really big to include all existing things. It's not in my head. But admittedly, don't we think our mind, like for Westerners, when you say to somebody, where's your mind? We point to our head. Some rare people will go, it's here in my heart. But how many people go, my mind, where's my mind? It's everywhere, which is technically more correct, as long as we're not thinking of the mind in the wrong way. So, where is it? So they say, if you don't analyze, you just need a pen, you look around, oh, there's one, pick it up, write with it. If you don't analyze it, the pen is out here, it's real, it works. Matakma Chepar, it's called. Just as it is. The words mean just as it is. I want to modify that and say, just as it appears to be more correct for my own mind. Because when I say, oh, just let it be the way it is, it's mistaken. That's not the way it is. That's the way it appears to my mistaken state of mind. And I don't want to perpetuate that, although I do all day long. So Matakma Chepar means don't analyze. Things are out there. They work. As long as we don't ask, but wait, what is it really? Where is it really? What's really happening? Why is it that that boss is always blaming me for stuff I didn't do? Why are they always yelling at me? When we start asking those kinds of questions, then we can't just leave it as just as it appears to be if we want to stop perpetuating the cycle of suffering. When we do start analyzing things, we are on our way to finding the emptiness of whatever it is that we are analyzing. Either the object or the experience of the object, or the subject side, the me, experiencing the object the way that I do. When a human and a dog perceive an object and one perceives pen and the other perceives chew toy, they are both having valid experiences. The object they're experiencing feels very real to them, is very real to them. But both of them are mistaken because both, if they're not Arya or higher, are perceiving the object as having somehow told them what it is. And that's incorrect. So when we say, here's an object, both dog and human see it, it's implying that the information that the dog and the information that the human both are experiencing the same information, just coming up with a different picture, right? That's what our mind is thinking. And so we would want at some point to say, well, wait, what about at the moment of the experience of just the colors and shapes? What's happening then? Let's analyze what's happening then to see if those are there first or not. So let's take a break at this point.
Lama Surani, I have a question. Hi. Is it better to ask now or wait until the end of the class?
Let's wait until the end of class, please.
Yes, sure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Are we back? Okay, so we can ask the question, what about the parts of the pen? And that'll be useful. Or we can ask the question, what about that angry yelling boss? We've explored our experience of her and realized, oh, my experience is unique to me. It's coming from my past behavior. But we really didn't ask, what about the boss herself, right? The boss gets to continue to exist, really. And just whether she's mean to me or nice to me is up to me. But we could and should ask, well, but what about the boss herself? Of course, she's not boss in her, from her, because I don't know, her for her neighbor, she's not boss. She's just neighbor. But what about the her herself? She's a human woman. Well, what about the mosquito landing on her arm? Is she a human woman for the mosquito? And it's like, no, she's potential lunch. And our minds go, yeah, for the mosquito, but come on, for her. So the next level is when we go looking at the raw data for person. And Geshe says it takes extraordinary virtue to even ask the question, to even have it occur to us. Yeah, but what about her? What about that conscious being? And then to make the leap to, well, if I can investigate the true existence of another person, another conscious person, ooh, doesn't whatever I find about their true existence also apply to my true existence? And then we do it again with our own me. And that's where I'm saying it can get scary or so misunderstood that we reject and flip out. And so we tiptoe into it, and here we are. So the Gansaki Dakshi Yang Taku Yinam, this is this phrase that says the the raw data of person, Gansaki Dakshi, the raw data of person is even that projection. Yinam is the question. Yang Taku means even that projection. Taku is the word for projection. Is the raw data of person even a projection? So it's easier to be asking the raw data of that person than it is to be saying the raw data of my own person. And both are important. And the one that takes us deepest, of course, is to investigate the raw data of my person. So when I say me, when I say my, when I say I want you to think you're me, you're I, right? Because otherwise I deliver this class and you think I'm talking about me, and I am, but I want you to be thinking about your you, okay? is the basis of you also projection? The very basis of you. But then when I ask the question, what is the very basis of you? Like, what would we say? If we hadn't heard any of this before, it's like, what is the raw data me? Oh my gosh. I don't, it's just me. I don't know what it is. I've never looked before. So how do we break it down? Mm. The importance of doing this investigation on our own me is because they say when we have our first direct perception of emptiness, the first emptiness that we experience directly is the emptiness of our own self. And they describe it as that's the first, and then you experience the emptiness of all existing things. But I think if we're trying to explain the unexplainable, it would be you experience the emptiness of yourself and you realize that's the emptiness of all existence. But, right, that doesn't make sense until we've worked our way through it. So, this tradition helps us unpack our me so that we can go looking for what we think is there that's not there. We can find the gotcha and then negate it. And so they say there's two broad categories of stuff that make up our me, my me. You could break it into 5, you can break it into 6, you can break it into 12, you can break it into 18, you can break it into 36, right? There's lots of different ways you can break up your basis. But to make it easiest, you can say, the me I think I am has a mind and it has a body. And those two categories make up or hold our 5 heaps. My body is the heap of form. All the other heaps is this interaction between my body and my mind. So within these two categories is all of our different heaps. So Sarani can be said to be made up of the raw data of mind and raw data of body. So if we want to go looking for our me to find its true nature, those are the 2 places that we can look. They're called the 2 dakshis, the 2 bases to look within. Mind and body are equivalent to our friend the pen's color and shape, right? The raw data. What's the raw data of me? Where's my Gansaki? Okay. If I keep grasping to my me in the way I've always grasped to my me, I will always react to the things that happen to me in ways to protect that me and to get that me what it wants. I can't change those automatic reactions significantly enough to change my experience of my world until I chip away at this belief that there is a me that things are happening to. The conclusion is not going to be there's no me that things happen to. There's going to be the conclusion of how is this whole process actually being created and perpetuated? Because with that growing knowledge, as I've said before, we will change the seeds that we plant. And theoretically, we will go on to plant our seeds in such a way that will someday force our projections, just like we're being forced now, force our projections to be Buddha me and Buddha paradise emanating. The only place that comes from is seeds ripening. Seeds will grow. So we don't have to be Buddha to make Buddha. They will grow into Buddha. But only once we have the correct factors, right? Going into the recipe. Because the whole me is empty. This whole me can perceive itself as fully enlightened whole me. If there's a whole me that has even some teeny little piece as a suffering being that's in it from it, then there's a teeny little piece that can't be changed. Because the only place change comes from is by changing my seed ripening. And if there's something independent of my seed ripening, then I can't plant something different. Okay. So when we start our analysis of our me, there's emptiness of two different things that we want to investigate. One of them is called the Gansaki Dakme. The other one is Chuki Dakme. Now the emptiness, of course, is identical. The absence of self-nature that we thought was there. But the object of our investigation is different. Gansaki Dakme means the not self-existent person. Dakme means not self-existent, meaning not in them, from them, for real. Not projection. Gansak means person, which could mean other person, could mean dog, any conscious being. But here we more specifically mean our person me, our own me. Gansaki Dakme. We're looking for the not self-existent me. And then Chuki Dakme is, Chu means thing, sometimes means all existing things. Here, the not self-existent thing is referring to what we mean by the my parts. So the me that I'm looking for the non-self-existent nature of in Gansaki Dakme, that me has parts. Meaning my hands, my arms, my body, my age, the season I'm in, but mostly we're talking about the things that we call my me. So if our me still stops here, then it's anything within the here is included in Chukidakme. Right? So we're not investigating the self-existence of tables and pens at this level. We're investigating the parts of my me, the parts of my Gansak that my ignorant me believes hold something in them that makes me me. So emptiness, we understand, is the lack of self-existence. So dak me means to find the not, to find the self-existence and then negate it. To find that something's not self-existent, we have to recognize how it is that we believe it is self-existent, and then check to see if that could be the case and still explain how we experience things. So, we start with, no, how I experience things is real. And so therefore my belief about them must be correct. Because Tan's right. I get up every day. I am me. But when we go analyzing, we find that belief that things and their identities and qualities and functions are in them, from them, is not consistent with actual experience. Remember when we first learned, Buddha said, check everything I say, check it against your own experience, check it with your logic. And it's like, well, my experience is that tree is a thing out there. But then as we keep studying and checking, it's like, oh no, that's not actually my experience. I thought it was, but it's not. So Buddha's teaching didn't seem like it was consistent with my experience, but then I come to realize, oh my gosh, it is consistent with my actual experience, which is it's all projections ripening out of my mind. But like it took me all this time to get there. So it's all really, really circular. So when we're doing this investigation, it's like we're going down in layers. Right? Layers of our experience, layers in our belief. We're peeling away the onion, right? Always looking for something that we think is there, telling us what it is, or contributing to what it is in some way, and then really checking logically to see whether that could be possible. So if we start with our body, our physical body to do this, then, we can start, is my physical body, dependent on all of these parts? And it's like, no, I'm still my physical body if I cut off my left hand. Like how much of my physical body has to be cut away before I'm not me anymore? All right, fine. Let's go down further. What's underneath that? Organs. Let's go down further. Let's cut to the chase. What's the primary, like singular building block of this thing I call my body? Because if I can find that and find how I believe it exists in it, from it, then that's the thing that I want to investigate whether it exists in that way or not. And then you don't have to do first my outer form, and then my parts, and then my organs, and then my cells, and then my metabolic processes. Don't need to do all that if you just cut to the basic building block. So we've heard this before, but listen to it again. What do we believe is the basic building block of our physical reality? Science used to say, oh, atoms. We found that there are atoms, the smallest particle that can no longer be split. Like originally it was, what, 35, 50 years later before they said, oh, actually atoms can be split too. And then it was 20 years later, that can be split too. And then it was 10 years later, that can be split too. That right now, it's like the new splittable particles are like popping up so quickly. I can't keep track. I lost track at quarks, and that was 20 years ago. So, but let's stop at atoms. If an atom is the basic building block of our physical reality, then that means you take two atoms and put them together, and then three atoms and put them together. That's what it means to be a building block, right? You build them together and you end up with this. So let's check out just one of those atoms to see if it can be the real thing that underlies all the rest of these real things. If it takes one of those atoms to be there for another atom to come close to it, and another one to come close to those, and another one to come close to those, then each one of those atoms had to have a place where the one atom met the other atom. Is that reasonable? If they had no side and you brought the two of them together, they would do that, right? They would have no place to be distinguished one from the other. So here's one building block that's unsplittable. Here's another building block that's unsplittable, undistinguishable one from the other. And you bring the two together. That shows us, if that's true, that that's what makes up this atom has to have a this side, and this atom has to have a this side for them to touch but not overlap. Make sense? If either one of those atoms has a this side, that means it has to have a that side, right? And that means there has to be a space in between the two sides in order to call it a this side and a that side. And if there's a space in between the two sides, then you can cut it. And now you have two smallest particles that make up the universe, which means the one we started with was not the smallest particle. Oh man, where is that going to end? Does it mean there are no such thing as atoms? Because that would mean there's no such things as cells, and no such thing as organs, and no such thing as muscles. And it's really slippery. It's like, well, if I'm still thinking of that basic building block as a thing from which everything else grows, there is no such thing as that. But there are tiny things called atoms that get put together that lead to this, and those atoms are what allow people to make computers and cars and send astronauts around the moon and create medicines and bombs and right? It's science is science is, but it's not the way we believe it is. Those atoms don't exist as basic building blocks of our material world so that they can exist as basic building blocks. Our minds project atoms as basic building blocks. And they work in the same way that the pen works, in the same way that we work every time we get up out of bed in the morning. It's all happening, but in a different way than we experience it. So if the basic building block of our physical world, our physical body, can only exist according to the mind who's perceiving it in the way that they do, lost my train of thought. Our physical body then is also nothing but a ripening result of imprints put into the mind that are ripening as this concept of a bunch of physical atoms put together into organs, right? That becomes human body, if that's what you are experiencing. Nothing but projections explains the bodies that we have. It doesn't negate the bodies that we have. What gets negated is the one we thought we had, which was in it, from it, unrelated to our past kindness. Do you see that? Still just doesn't quite connect the dot for me when I hear my mind say it. Wait a minute. Intellectually, I understand, but emotionally, when I hear my body is made up of past kindness and unkindness, if I could really hold that as my knees hurt, my hands hurt, right? I wouldn't be so upset about hurting. I'd be just going, okay, burn this off. I was so mean before I knew any better, right? Since lifetimes. And I'd be happy to burn off all that meanness with this simple pain in my knee, instead of, oh my gosh, how worse things could be and are for many people. So we're showing ourselves that the basis of this body can't be the atom science says it is, in the way that we believe science is telling us about it, which is in it, from it. If the scientists were saying, look, we found the smallest particle that we know isn't actually the smallest, and it's a result of great kindness, let's do something fabulous with this new information to help people, then we would, like, science has got it right. But I don't see science doing that yet. Why? Something wrong with those scientists, right? No. Right. Okay. So I think we just showed ourselves that our physical bodies are not made up of a collection of atomic particles. Did I show us that? Not really. What I showed us is that our bodies are not made up of atomic particles that are not ripening results of our own past behavior. because those kind of atomic particles can't come together. There can't be such a thing without our projection of there being such a thing. And when we have the projection of there being such a thing, there is such a thing. Is it real? Slippery. Yes, that's what makes it real. But is it real the way we thought before? No. Is it not real the way we thought before? No, it's non-existent. It's impossible. It never was. Wow, what an adult. I believed in it since forever. When the proof that it can't exist like that is so simple. All right. Suki Sokpe Diltrarab. We think our physical body is made up of smallest atomic particles, and we just showed ourselves that that's true and not true at the same time. Where am I? Where am I? And the ramification of that understanding is so therefore I can create the causes to force my mind to perceive its physical body as a body made of bliss wisdom, a body that's not limited in time and space by physicality, a body that experiences everything as exquisite and extraordinary that we instantly share with others. If there was anything about these bodies that are the way they seem to be, there'd be something we couldn't change by our behavior. We don't change by just wishing, although wishing starts the changed behavior. We want to imagine what it is we want to create, and then recognize that what we create will be beyond our imagination, the extraordinariness of it, because our seeds grow. But we start with a vision, an image, a wish, and then we try to match our behavior towards others to plant lots of teeny little seeds that when those seeds ripen, force us into the projection, me and my parts, Buddha me and Buddha paradise. What kind of behaviors is that going to take? Oh, 6 perfections, right? We've learned about it, our vows. Because until we're omniscient, we don't know exactly what behavior brings what result. So at some point, we do rely upon the words of an omniscient being for the guidance. But ultimately, it's up to us. Our behavior choices, we make them based on our growing wisdom. And we'll get it right. And then we, Buddha us, will say, well, I made all these mistakes and I did all these things right. So let me help you do that too. And then you'll find your own way as well. It's important to recognize that when we're doing this thing about the atom, to recognize that our mind will go in the direction of, oh, well, then nothing exists at all. And if nothing exists as anything but a wild, mind thought, then really nothing matters. Because whether I'm being hurt or hurting somebody or enjoying triple berry pie, it's all just this fantasy. And it doesn't matter. Like something happens in a dream, good or bad. And it seems really important in the dream, but we come out of the dream and we go, oh, it was just a dream. And we negate the whole thing. If we come to the wrong conclusion about our Shukidakme, the not self-existent parts of my physical nature, then we can come to this conclusion, well, it doesn't really matter. If we don't also say, well, why is it then that I'm experiencing my physical nature the way I am? If the atoms coming together are not making me do it, what is making me do it? And that's where we go to the, well, is it a result? Right? Is my experience of my physical body a result? Yes, it's a result. Don't results need causes? Yeah. If it's my mind determining, something in my mind is determining my body is the way it is, that's the result. Doesn't the thing that causes that result have to be something I put into my mind to begin with? Not to begin with, earlier. So for any result, the cause has to be something that got put into that mind stream, in order for it to come out of the mind stream, right? Can something come out of our mind stream that wasn't already in there? No. Can we experience something we didn't make the causes for? No. Are we making causes for things by experiencing things? Yes. To experience something, right? It's the result of the previous experience. As we experience something, is there a moment when we just experience it before we have thumbs up, thumbs down, discriminate, all the other factors? Like, are those happening bing, 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 bing? Or are they happening as simultaneously as two things can be simultaneous, right? It's all ripening out of those seeds. So we have to break it down to talk about it. Boss is yelling. My response, don't like it. Don't like it in what way? I didn't do the thing she's blaming me for. I feel disrespected. When I feel disrespected, I get defensive. When I get defensive, whatever my reaction is, I yell back, or I cry, or I lie to wiggle out of it, right? We all have our automatic reaction to when we've been hurt in some way. And it's not bad, it's human. And it's the arena in which we recognize, oh, this whole pattern is seeds ripening. As I'm recognizing the pattern, I'm planting new seeds, which will help me recognize the patterns quicker, sooner. And as I have the awareness of it happening, hopefully I have the awareness of my automatic reaction and my decision. Do I want to react that way? Maybe your answer is yes. Maybe your answer is no, because when somebody lies to me, I don't like it. And it ends up in mistrust and blah, blah, blah. So maybe I don't want to lie to wiggle out of this experience. What do I want to do? Right? By now, the boss's yelling has just gotten louder and louder because I'm not paying any attention to her, and so now she's even madder at me. But it's like what's happening in the moment is not a result of what we did in the immediate moment before. All of this we've been studying, we've been working on, because it all comes into play when we're digging into our me that I believe is self-existent and coming to the conclusion that there's no such thing as that it's all mental projections, and to prevent ourselves from falling off that cliff of, if it's all mental projections, it doesn't matter. Nobody gets hurt in a movie. Nobody gets hurt in a dream. If my life is like that, then it doesn't matter if I hurt other people to get what I want. To be consistent, we would have to then say, and it doesn't matter if they hurt me to get what they want. And we don't go there. So careful to watch our minds, to find our minds when they're sliding into, oh yeah, I get emptiness. Nothing is anything. To not let it go the rest of the way. So the only thing that matters is me. Or nothing matters at all. All right. So that's the first part, which is investigating the me and my relationship to the physical body. We didn't get to the me part. We just looked at the physical body and showed ourselves that our physical body must be projected onto parts, the parts of which are also projected onto more subtle parts, because we showed ourselves that we cannot find a smallest particle that can be there first that even receives the projection. There's a smallest particle that comes out of the projection. When we are looking at our physical nature at the level of the smallest particle, when we understand this going down in the levels, we will recognize that we never find nothing. When we go looking for the thing that gets the label, that gets the concept, we always find something more subtle that's also getting a more subtle concept. So we looked for the single basic building block of our physical body. And we found the thing called atom. And we recognized, no, that can be split into something smaller. And we recognize that can be split into something smaller. And when we recognize that that thing that can get split into something smaller, right, is our concept of our mind, and we keep looking for something that can be there independent of our concept of it, we find there's no such thing that can be there without our concept of it. But we never find no such thing at all, because there's always more subtle information getting more subtle concept. When we reach that, at some point our mind goes, wow, there's no point going any deeper because we're always going to find the same process. Then we can build ourselves back out again. Why? Why do I see it this way? Why do I perceive it that way? And we put on the punchline, my own mental concept saying this many atoms makes up a liver organ. That's my concept. And it makes a liver organ that function. That's my concept. If it's a good thing, it's a result of helpfulness. When my liver goes bad, I know. It's a result of unhelpfulness. It's not the liver's fault. It's my past behavior's fault. So, eh, keep working with the connection between what we think we see that can't be there and why we see it there at all, so that we can build this automatic connection that brings on the, oh, my behavior. Because if we can study all this stuff, if we don't apply it to our behavior, it will just die with it and then it'll be gone. Do you remember the death meditation module? And it was like, oh, nothing can help me at my death but the Dharma. Not meaning put my head on Dharma books when I die and I'll be fine, but meaning what my Dharma practice taught me to stop doing and do more of, so that the seeds in my mind, any one of them that pops at the moment of death, fine with me. I'm going where I need to go. That's how our Dharma works. So we want to get that connection really strong. Mm. So we've been looking at the physical data. Are we saying there's no data at all? No, we're saying there's no self-existent data. What does self-existent mean? To exist in some way other than the ripening concept in the mind of the experiencer. See how important you are? You, the experiencer, are the creator of the whole world. Thank you very much. By way of our imprints that we make. How do we make the imprints? By interacting with our world. Is there ever a moment in time when we're not interacting with our world? No. So is there ever a moment in time when you are not creating your future? No. What kind of future you want? Do we have control over what future ripens? Not yet. But does that mean then we can't create better than what we have? No, because it only takes little plantings that are added to that make them grow. Are we capable of little changes in our behavior? Yeah. Haven't we all done it? Right? We used to act like that and that when we were teens. Oh my gosh. I wouldn't do that now for the life of me. We've changed. We've grown up. So we're using this wisdom in that same way, right? To mature our behavior choices by way of our understanding. And then there's nothing we can't create as we change our behavior. Okay. So the second aspect in looking for our self-existent me that we think has a body and a mind is to look for the emptiness of our mind, to look for the self-existent mind that we think is there, to show ourselves whether or not it can actually exist in that way. And to do that, we'll go looking for the basic building blocks of our mind. And I'm actually going to stop and do this as a separate class because I find that what we just went through is so loaded that to do this next section, it loses impact because we're swimming in these other ideas. So let's let ourselves cook the idea about our physical body and whether it's really there or not. Or whether it's not self-existently there or not, and see which one of those pushes your envelope in terms of choosing behavior. And then we'll either do an extra class at the end of this session, right, to make up, or if everybody's schedule is pressured, we'll not do the review class if we have to. So we'll have a whole class on our own mind next class, okay? And so that probably won't take the whole 2 hours. So if you've got questions that, right, bring those to, if we have it, we'll do it. Okay. All right. So remember that person. I'm remembering you have a question, Yashing, but let's do our closing dedication and then. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help. We learned some critical things through which we will go on to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please be happy with yourself and think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please, please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom may. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom. And may it be so. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, teacher.
Yes. So Yashing has a question I'll answer. Feel free to leave the meeting if you need to. You're welcome also to stay. Yashing, should I leave the recording on or turn it off?
On is fine.
Okay. All right.
It's actually I think it's a few classes before when we were talking about the there's the high school, and then we also touch about the mind only.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's also interesting, it's to do with the raw data. It's the things outside. So the question is, it's like So if I really have the seed of pen, let's say, then I should be able to project to whatever, right? But then I should be able to project on the stick and like that's a pen. But the fact I couldn't project that on the raw data of two wheel and a sitting sack and a handle, which is like a bicycle. So it just means so it means something out there still doing this. So how could we say I'm 100% this way because the raw data does affect that?
Right, right, right. And that's where we keep going down layers. Look at the raw data. Look at what we're calling stick. We've already done it.
Yeah,
Taken raw information, put on its stick. Get, goes more subtle. This side, making that whole. Language fails very quickly, right?
yeah,
Because you can't say anymore. But every level we go to, where we're looking for the thing that has to be there to get the information, when we look at it, we find, oh, it's just more subtle information that's getting that label. That is the exploration that moves us from mind only through to higher middle way, through lower middle way to higher middle way, is the extent to which we can reach the experience is that every time I find the thing that gets the label, I automatically recognize that's a label too. So, yes, that process is always happening. Data that gets a label, data that gets a label, data that gets a label. But
Mhm.
there's no data there first. And that's where our logical minds go, but it has to be there first. But it can't be there first. Well, then why do we need it at all if it can't be there first? Because you can't just project something out into outer space.
Mhm.
It lands on something, but that something has to be there. Do you see language just fails because our
So
language
when you
is sequential.
so because that's also the wording I'm not too understanding like too well. Because when you say that goes to more subtle, does that
Right.
mean when I have the raw data, then I'm like, does that raw data function that way? So it's like, is that what you meant?
Right. Every time we go to a smaller piece of raw data, we're looking to see what's in that raw data that makes me see it the way I see it, or perceive it the way I perceive it, think about it the way I think about it. What is it in it that makes it be what I perceive? And we won't be able to find anything in it that makes it the atom. What we'll find is, oh, there's quarks.
Hmm.
And then we go looking for the thing we're calling quark, and oh, there's strings or whatever, right? So it's a sequential investigation to come to the conclusion it doesn't work like that.
Can I use the wording as in that thing doesn't function the way I think it functions?
Yeah, that will help you,
Mm, yeah.
right?
Because I think that what I experience in life, like if I apply, is that's where we were, like I kept thinking, that's why a lot of people they are talking about the conditionality
Uh-huh.
because they were like, oh, you have to have this condition.
Right,
So this, like certain result appears. And then
right.
people often also like, even I would be like, a good example is, let's say I want to have a regular meditation, but I don't have a regular meditation seat. And
Yeah,
my mind goes to, do I set up the raw data as in, have this condition?
yeah,
And then I will have a good result, the one
right.
I project. And I was like, does the conditionality matter? Like,
It
should we still
matters.
focus on them in any
Right,
sense?
right. And so, like the conundrum that you're working with is the conundrum that happens when we say, oh, that raw data doesn't exist, because automatically it's, well, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I have a meditation cushion. It's true, it doesn't matter. But if we want a regular meditation practice, one of the ways to imprint that in our mind is to have a meditation cushion that we put our butts on,
Yeah.
right? So because it's not self-existent, nothing in it, in your meditation cushion that will make you be a good meditator, and you can meditate without meditation cushions. But because we have this association coming from seeds to have a meditation cushion in that spot, waiting for me to get on it every day, that will contribute to my behavior choice that will get me into a meditation practice. Not because one comes from the other, but because all of it is part of the process happening. Right? The process happening.
I think
So
that's
good
going to
questions to keep like, what is it in the, our minds want something to be there in some substantial way that we can rely on, we can trust, will always be like that. And that's what we're looking for. And that's what we will find is not existent in the stuff. If we want that, we need to create it by being reliable, consistent, trustworthy, etc.
Mhm.
And then we'll live in a world that is like that, even existentially existing.
And how about if I have there's another conclusion I came out from this is so there's nothing I can find. So like there's not like I couldn't find it. It's like here or it's like it's
Right?
there. Is that a helpful conclusion as well?
As long as you don't fall into the, well, if nothing's really there, then nothing really matters.
Mm,
If the conclusion, nothing's really there, is like, wow, then I can create anything, then yes, it's useful.
mm,
But then that's dangerous too, because we could get into this sphere where it's like, whoa, nothing is anything. I'm creating it all in my mind. Look at me. Like I'm the queen of the universe. Anything I want is mine to take, right? And we go off into schizophrenia, actually, right? Have a mental break. And it happens to people on the spiritual path, right? They get so into their no self nature that they crack. No, and not everybody gets brought back. So take it seriously, right? To keep questioning, where is it that I'm still believing the thing or the experience or the whatever is in it from it? And where is it that I'm coming to the conclusion that it's not really like that? So I can pretend my way into a better world. Diamond Way is about pretending your way into a better world. And so it's dangerous if we don't have that strong foundation for how to behave as your pretended you. Pretend you as a fully enlightened being helping everybody no matter your own cost. Great. Pretend that. Pretend you're already the enlightened being that can't do anything wrong so you can tromp on everybody and it's for their benefit. Mm-mm-mm. Right? Really dangerous. Geshe is so skillful at having trained us from the get-go that it's our behavior, our behavior, our behavior. Because without that, it's so hard to come to that conclusion. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. I'm stopping recording. Yes.